welcome to our lesson on chords. The first concept we're going to be dealing with is that of triads. But before we do, let's just take a step back and remind ourselves what a chord is. A chord is a group of 3 or more notes which are played at the same time. If you only had to have 2 notes, well, that would be an interval. A triad is the most basic form of chord. Tri meaning 3, has 3 notes, 2/3 next to one another. In a major triad, the minor third is at the top and the major third is the lower of the two. In a minor triad, the major third is above and the minor third the lower one. In root position, the root of the triad, which is the note that dominates the harmony, is at the bottom of the chord. Triads are named after the degree of the scale of the root of the chord. You can build chords on any degree of the scale. Here we have all of the root position chords in the key of C major. And here in turn is F major. The chords are labeled with Roman numerals, with the uppercase Roman numeral for major and lowercase for minor. Here we have G major, and chord 1, 4 and 5 you will see are major. That's the tonic, subdominant and dominant chords. They are our primary chords. If you're enjoying this video, please do subscribe to the Imagination Lab YouTube channel to get all of our new theory videos as we post them. Let's have a look at an example question. In this question, we have a given melody in F major, and we're needing to provide chords for the notes in the blocks. Some of the blocks only have one note in them, in which case we've got to harmonize those single notes, and the 2 other blocks, one has 2 notes and the other has several notes. We've got to select which are the non-harmonic notes in those cases. In the first block, we have a C above a G. Now we need to work out which chords in F major work with a C and a G, and which of those chords are going to be the best ones to use at this position in the bar. So a good idea is to write out all the chords in F major and have a look at which ones have got a C and a G. And we see we don't really have any other option other than chord 5, which makes it simple. We have to use chord 5 to harmonize these 2 notes. So looking back at our melody, the way to answer this is to put a 5, an uppercase Roman numeral because it's major, underneath the first of the 2 notes. If we don't put anything next to the next note, we can assume that that is also chord 5, and we know that chord 5 works for both of those notes. In the next example, we've just got a single note, and that gives us slightly more options because every note occurs in 3 chords. And the note that we have here is a G. So we're going to have a look back at our list of all the notes in the chords in the key of F major and have a look at which chords have a G in them. And there we can see we've got a G in chord 2, in chord 5, and in chord 7. So now the tricky thing is to work out which chord is going to make the most sense at this point in the melody. And because we are at a cadence point, at an ending of a phrase, actually chord 5 is going to make the most sense to insert a chord 5 again at that point so that it creates an imperfect cadence at the end of that bar. In our next lesson, you'll see we're going to deal with cadences, so you'll be able to select the correct chord according to the cadence. And for now, you just need to know that that's an ending of a phrase, and chord 5 works really well. Our next example, we have got lots of notes. In fact, the notes on the beat are the ones which are our harmonic notes, the F, the D, and the B flat. The others are passing notes because they are leading from one to the other, and we're not going to need to include them in the harmony or in the chord. So let's have a look which chord has got those 3 notes. And in this case, we can see we don't have an option again. Only chord 4 has a B flat, a D, and an F in the chord. So we can go back to our melody again, and underneath the first note in bar 6, we can put an uppercase Roman numeral 4, because chord 4 is also major, and that will then apply for that whole bar, for all of the beats for the F, the D, and the B flat. The next note that we're needing to harmonize is an E. Once again, we have a single note, which, knowing that that note occurs in 3 chords, we'll probably have 3 options when we look at our matrix. So which chords have an E? We can see we've got chord 3, chord 5, and chord 7. So once again, we need to look at where we are in the melody, and because we got the second last chord, we need a strong progression. And the strongest chord there is going to be chord 5. That will give us a cadence. We'll learn about cadences in our next lesson. So chord 5 is going to work really well with the E again. See, we've got lots of chord 5s in this example. The last note which we're looking at here is an F. F being the tonic note in the key of F major. Now we are at the end of this melody, and it's really going to make sense to end in the tonic chord, or using the tonic chord in the key of F. So even though we can see we've got an F in 3 chords, it comes up in chord 1, in chord 4, and in chord 6. The most logical chord to use at this point is going to be chord 1. You know, all of the others will sound okay if it was in a different context, if the F was somewhere else, but we're at the end of this, the second phrase in this melody, and an uppercase Roman numeral 1 is going to indicate a major chord 1 for that note, meaning that it goes really well with an F, an A, and a C. Let's take a look at chord inversions. That's different positions of the same chord where we have the same harmonic implication in the same notes. Because we have got 3 notes in a triad, there are 3 possible arrangements of those notes where each note has a turn to be at the bottom or the middle or the top of the chords. When the root of the chord is at the bottom, it is called root position, or in Roman numeral notation, it's called an A. When the middle note of the root position chord is at the bottom, it's called first inversion, or B. And when the top note of the root position triad is at the bottom of the chord, it's called second inversion, or C. Here is an exercise for you to try at the piano to become more familiar with the shape of each inversion in each key. The second part of the exercise is over an octave, which is strictly speaking a root position in all 3, but your right hand is working through the 3 inversions of the same chord. The third part is much more musical. Here we have an example in D major now, with 4 notes in the right hand over an octave in the left hand. Here we have the exercise in E major. Now in practice, in music, the notes will very seldom be in this closed position. Here is F major. Most of the time the notes will be spread out, and what gives it its different inversion is which note is in the bass. Here we've got G major. All of these are strictly speaking in root position because we've got the root of the chord at the bass, but we're really just practicing the shapes of the inversions for the right hand so that you can see what shapes they have, which are very distinctive shapes. Here we've got D flat major. It's a good idea to try this exercise in every key. Let's have a look at an example question which includes inversions. Here we have a phrase that is fully harmonized, and certain of the chords have been selected. Here we've got 3 chords and we needing to notate those chords. We have to give the Roman numeral, so which degree of the scale the chord is based on, and also the inversion of the chord, whether it's A, B, or C. The first chord, we need to just look at what notes are there, and we see that we've got a B, a G, and a D in the chord. So now what we can do is write out all the chords that form G major, because our example's in G major, and have a look at what degree of the scale that chord is formed from. And we see here that it's actually chord 1. But we know that B was at the bottom of the chord, which means the middle note of the root position is now at the bottom of the chord. So this is actually a first inversion. So the answer to this is chord 1. And because B is at the bottom and not G, it's in B position. The next chord, we have got a D, an A, and an F sharp. So those 3 notes, we need to now check on our matrix which chord is formed out of those 3 notes and which note or which position of the chord has got the D at the bottom. And we can see here that when we see the D, F sharp, and A, it's chord 5. And because D is the lowest note in root position of the chord, D is the bottom of the chord, which means it's in root position, so it's in position A. So that is a chord 5, A. The last example that we're needing to supply harmony for is the last chord in this phrase, and we've got 4 notes in that chord, a G, a B, a D, and a G, but because the G is doubled, we just need to know that it's a G, a B, and a D. So again, we're going to go to our matrix and have a look at which chord has got a G, a B, and a D. And we see chord 1 is very obviously G, B, and D. We also need to see that G is the lowest note of that chord. And it makes sense because we are at the end of this phrase to have a root position, chord 1, concluding this phrase. Okay, so that's all there is for this lesson on chords. Be sure to catch the next lesson, which is going to be about cadences. Please be sure to also go through to the Imagination Lab website, www.theimaginationlab.online, to have a look at all the other wonderful things that we have there for you.